The monstrosities descended without a hint of warning. Had Chu Kai-'s senses not alerted him in time to cry out a frantic alarm, the group would have been caught completely off guard. Lethal strands of silk whipped through the air, narrowly missing Lin Yi as he ducked and rolled. He cast a desperate look behind him at the village, which was now a pillar of roaring fire. A grim realization settled in his chest. A direct confrontation would be a suicide mission. Even a victory would come at a cost they couldn't afford to pay. The exhaustion was beginning to show on Chengdao. The relentless pace of the fight and the constant psychological pressure had drained more than half of his combat strength. Though he still gripped his weapons, the lethal precision of his flying blades was faltering. Their movements were becoming sluggish, losing the terrifying speed they once possessed. Chu Kai fared no better. His physical frame was trembling, still reeling from the violent toll his sensory abilities had taken on his nervous system. Pushing his powers any further would be reckless. He was dancing on the edge of total collapse, and another attempt to focus could lead to permanent, irreversible damage. The forest shadows were alive with the scuttling of bloated rats and the rustle of feathered horrors. If they burnt through their remaining strength here, the swarming vermin would finish what the freak started. Lin Yi couldn't shake the feeling that they were being hounded by some cosmic misfortune. It felt as though their every move was met with a new, more terrifying obstacle. It seemed as if their successful flight from the city had drained their entire reservoir of luck. Since that moment, their journey had been nothing but a relentless spiral into despair.
Lu Linhai, get Zhang Cheng and the others to the village. Move now!
The inferno that had consumed the village was beginning to smolder, yet the heat remained a potent barrier. The freaks kept their distance, hovering just beyond the reach of the dying flames, their primal fear of fire overriding their hunger. Lu Linhai's knuckles were white as he tightened his hold on the metal bar. He turned to Lin Yi, his brow furrowed with deep worry.
What about you? You not gonna stay behind, are you?
I can leave Uncle Ann alone out here.
Lin Yi answered firmly. High above, the airborne horrors circled like vultures, their multifaceted eyes tracking every movement. A mass retreat would be the signal they were waiting for, the moment they would dive and tear them apart.
Uncle Ann and I will hold them off. If we don't, none of us are making it inside alive. When you reach the village, keep clear of the shacks. The fire-s weaken them, and they could come down on your heads. Just stay alert.
Understood. I'll get the others to safety first. Then I am coming back for you both.
There was no time for further debate. Every second spent talking was a second the freaks gained on them. Lu Linhai pivoted, hoisting the limp form of Chu Kai over his shoulder with a grunt of effort. Without looking back, he gestured for the others to follow as they sprinted toward the village entrance. Left behind, Lin Yi closed his eyes, focusing on the abstract pull of his ability. A searing heat bloomed in his chest, making his breath hitch as he reaching out for the familiar glowing filaments of destiny. A fraction of a second later, a shimmering filament, invisible to all but him, erupted from his sternum. It pulsed with a faint, ethereal light, tethered to the core of his being. Lin Yi fixed his eyes on Chengdao. As if guided by his will, the glowing thread snaked through the smoke-filled air, reaching out until it latched onto the butcher, forging a silent, supernatural connection between them. His intent was clear: to use his power as a conduit, siphoning off the crushing fatigue that threatened to ground Chengdao. If he could carry even a portion of that weight, the butcher might still have a fighting chance. And Chengdao was the keystone of their defense. If he fell, the group would be defenseless against the swarming horrors, and his survival was the only path to their collective salvation. However, the instant the link was established, a foreign, disorienting sensation flooded the nervous system of Lin Yi. It was not pain, but something far more alien and profound. He struggled to find words for the feeling. It was as if his very identity was bleeding into another, a blurring of boundaries that defied simple explanation. As he focused, the sensation clarified. It felt as though his physical form had expanded, sprouting an additional pair of phantom limbs that he could feel as clearly as his own. two spectral hands, unseen by the world, yet fully responsive to his commands. A freak, sensing the group attempted escape, folded its wings and plummeted from the sky. It landed with a heavy thud, its grotesque form cutting off the escape route and looming over the retreating survivors.
Let go of me. Put me down, now. I can deal with this. Just get little Yun to safety, and keep moving.
Chu Kai was desperate to funnel every ounce of his remaining strength into his hearing, despite the risk. He knew the odds were against them, but the primal urge to shield his sister outweighed his own survival.
Shut your mouth! I'm still standing, and I'm not about to let a blind man take the fall for me.
One more push, and Chu Kai would be lost forever to a world of eternal silence and darkness.
Stick, keep an eye on him.
Zhang Cheng didn't hesitate, lunging forward to catch Chu Kai and keep him steady. Chu Yun's eyes suddenly widened as a memory surfaced. She reached into her brother's pack, her small hands emerging with the cold, heavy weight of a crossbow. With trembling but focused hands, she notched a bolt into place. She raised the weapon, her gaze fixed with unwavering intensity on the monstrosity that stood between them and the village.
Shut up. Shut up.
The freak's hideous, tooth-lined mouth spasmed, but the sound that spilled out was a perfect, chilling echo of Lu Linhai's own voice. The realization hit them like a physical blow. The creature was parroting their words, a grotesque mimicry of human speech. It chanted the phrase like a mantra, a twisted and cruel mockery designed to shatter their resolve.
You filthy piece of...
Before he could close the distance, a streak of silver light sliced through the air, a lethal blade hurtling with unerring precision toward the freak's head.
Uncle Anne?
Wait, that's not his weapon. That belongs to Brother Lin Yi.
Lin Yi?
They spun around to find Lin Yi hunched over, his chest heaving as he fought to draw breath, his face pale with the effort of his supernatural feat. The atmosphere around him seemed to congeal, turning into a heavy, viscous fluid that resisted every movement. It felt as though he were drowning in a sea of thick, invisible ink. A savage, tearing agony radiated from his sternum, a physical manifestation of the immense power he was channeling. His lungs burned, each breath a rattling, desperate victory over the crushing weight on his chest. The moment the ethereal link solidified between him and An Chengdao, a tidal wave of foreign energy surged back through the connection. It was a phantom vitality, a borrowed strength that hummed with the butcher's own battle-hardened resolve. His initial aim had been altruistic, a simple desire to shoulder some of the man's crushing exhaustion. He had never sought to seize control of the butcher's lethal tools. However, the second his mind brushed against the pulsing thread, his awareness shattered and expanded. He was no longer confined to his own body. He was part of something far larger, far more potent. The heavy bone cleaver, which had been beginning to flag under An Chengdao's waning strength, suddenly ignited with a blinding, terrifying velocity. It cut through the air with a shriek, its edge glowing with a lethal, unnatural light. That strike hadn't been born from An Chengdao's hand. The butcher was merely the conduit for a far more dangerous will. It was Lin Yi who had unleashed the blade. Lin Yi didn't linger to confirm the freak's demise. In this environment, survival was measured in heartbeats, not kills. The ephemeral thread had hardened, manifesting as a solid, physical tether that vibrated with the intensity of their shared struggle. Through the connection, Lin Yi could feel the frantic, heavy drum of An Chengdao's heart. He sensed the butcher's vitality draining away, a guttering candle in a rising gale. Gritting his teeth, Lin Yi funneled every scrap of his remaining willpower into the link, ignoring the searing heat in his chest. The floating arsenal of butcher knives suddenly ignited, becoming a blur of lethal silver. They whipped through the air like guided missiles, shredding the airborne horrors in a cascade of black ichor and severed limbs.
Go, get to the village, now!
Lu Linhai responded instantly, leading the terrified survivors toward the smoldering safety of the village ruins, their silhouettes disappearing into the smoke. and Chengdao stood rooted to the spot next to Lin Yi. The seasoned warrior's eyes were wide with a mixture of profound shock and newfound respect as he witnessed the boy's impossible mastery. Side by side, the butcher and the student held their ground. They stood as a final, defiant wall against the encroaching nightmare, two flickering lights against the closing shadows as the last of the village fires began to fail. An unfamiliar aroma suddenly washed over him, thick with a confusing mix of different scents. The sharp, clean fragrance of lemon zest cut through first, momentarily clearing his mind with its refreshing touch. But then, the heavy sweetness of osmanthus followed, thick and cloying as it began to pull his thoughts into a hazy fog. Lin Yi had never smelled anything like it. His brain screamed a warning, yet his lungs acted on their own, greedily drinking in the poisonous perfume. As the world around him started to swim, he slammed his palm against the dark bruise on his ribs. The sudden agonizing jolt of pain was the only thing keeping him from slipping away. Through the haze, a tune he knew all too well began to play. It was the birthday song his parents had sung to him on the day everything changed. Lin Yi watched through a blurred lens as his younger self sat at the dining table, eyes tight as he made a silent wish for his 18th year. The cake glowed with candlelight. His parents smiled from across the table, and there, beside the cake, was the knife.
No, this isn't real. It's a trick.
He screamed the words inside his mind, a desperate attempt to shatter the illusion. The song faded into silence. His mother rose from her seat. She reached for the blade and began to walk toward the boy at the table. Lin Yi felt the phantom weight of his shotgun. He tried to level the barrel at her head, his hands shaking uncontrollably. But he was powerless. A ghost watching a nightmare. He couldn't move a single muscle as the scene played out. He watched, heart in his throat, as his mother raised the glinting steel. It began its downward arc, inevitable and slow. But the blade didn't strike the boy. It sank softly into the frosting of the cake. Lin Yi stood paralyzed, his mind unable to process the change. With a gentle smile, his mother cut a neat slice and placed it onto a plate for his younger self. She rested the knife on the table and reached out to stroke his hair. Her voice was like honeyed silk.
Happy birthday, Year, my sweet boy.
Happy birthday, son! We are so very proud of you!
His father beamed, pulling a wrapped gift from behind his back, the very picture of a loving parent. It was the perfect birthday he had never had, a warm, beautiful lie that contradicted his every memory. A sudden, painful longing filled his chest. Could this have been his life if they weren't? Monsters? He reached out, his hand trembling as he tried to touch the edges of the dream to step into the light. But as his fingertips brushed the air, the vision shattered like glass, dissolving back into the dark. Lin Yi's eyes flew open, his body jerking upright as he gasped for air. The soft, steady pop of a small campfire was the only sound in the stillness, its orange light dancing across the cold stone. This wasn't the village woods. He found himself within the damp, narrow confines of a secluded cave. The chaos of the battle rushed back to him. It had been early morning when they fought, but a glance toward the entrance revealed the deepening shadows of twilight. How much time had passed? And the monsters, where were they? Had they won or just been forgotten? He remembered the heat of the shotgun, the weight of Chukai's borrowed power, and the second blast he'd leveled at the creature's head. None of it explained how he'd ended up here, tucked away in safety. The scent, that cloying, sweet perfume from his vision, that had to be the cause of his sudden collapse. But if he'd been unconscious and vulnerable, why was he still alive? The freaks didn't leave human prey behind without a reason. Were they waiting for him to ripen? Was he just another piece of meat being prepared for the slaughter? A cold shiver ran down his spine. If the monsters had taken them, they surely wouldn't have left their weapons. His gaze darted to the corner. Their gear was all there, neatly organized. The knives, the shotgun, nothing had been touched. Beside him, Chu-kai was out cold, a faint, silly smile on his face as if he were lost in a pleasant dream. Across the fire, and Cheng Dao and Zhang Cheng lay still, their breathing deep and rhythmic. They were trapped in the same unnatural slumber. He counted the bodies. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 of them were in the cave. Lin Yi and Chu Yun were gone. A cold wave of panic washed over him. Lin Yi lunged forward and gave Chu-kai a violent shove.
Chu-kai, wake the hell up. This is no time for a nap. Little Yun and Lin Yi are missing.
Chu-kai merely groaned in his sleep, batting his hand in the air as if shooing away a persistent insect, his eyes remaining tightly shut. Cursing under his breath, Lin Yi scrambled over to where Zhang Cheng and Cheng Dao lay. He shook them with everything he had, but they were lost in the same blissful trance, their faces wearing content, unmoving smiles. His survival instincts flared white-hot. He abandoned his attempts to wake them and dove toward the corner of the cave. He snatched the double-barreled shotgun from the stone wall, the cold metal grounding him as he leveled the sights at the dark opening. Something was out there, drawing closer. A heavy, rhythmic dragging sound scraped against the earth, a noise that made his very skin crawl with dread. The sound intensified, now joined by the heavy, unmistakable thud of approaching footsteps. A silhouette filled the cave entrance. Recognizing the newcomer, the tension in Lin Yi's shoulders began to bleed away as she rushed toward him.
Brother Lin Yi, you're finally awake. We were starting to worry.
Chu Yun was clutching a bundle of strange, colorful fruits he didn't recognize. There was something slightly off about her expression, but she seemed unharmed.
About time! I thought you were going to sleep through the whole week.
Lin Yi stepped into the firelight right behind her, a string of freshly cleaned rats dangling from his grip.
Are you hungry? Here, try some of these. I know they look weird, but they're surprisingly sweet.
She held out one of the bizarre fruits, her eyes bright and expectant.
You two, how are you?
Lin Yi stared at them, his mind reeling. They looked more than just okay. They looked invigorated, as if the brutal combat with the freaks had never even happened. He dug his thumb into the bruised flesh of his chest, the resulting spark of agony serving as a grim anchor to reality. This wasn't another vision.
Brother Lin Yi, why are you doing that? You look like you're in pain.
Maybe he's still trapped in a dream? Hey, want me to give him a good slap to bring him back to his senses?
Lin Yi began skewering the rats, a playful, slightly mocking smirk playing on his lips as he glanced over at Lin Yi.
Are you really okay? No injuries, nothing?
What kind of welcome is that? You sounds like you were hoping we'd be missing a limb or two.
We're perfectly fine, Brother Lin Yi. Really?
Chu Yun smiled gently as she placed the fruit on a flat stone near the fire, her movements fluid and calm. Chu Yun opened her mouth to continue, but Lin Yi wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on a movement in the darkness outside. A familiar, hideous sight emerged from the shadows, a gray-brown carapace, jagged and covered in vicious spikes. A freak. Then, a voice drifted from the cave entrance, a low, mocking whisper that froze the blood in his veins. "Bastard! Just die already! Die already!" The words were a perfect, distorted mimicry of his own voice, spat back at him with chilling accuracy. Rage and terror boiled over. Lin Yi ground his teeth and hauled the shotgun back into position, aiming straight for the creature's head. His finger curled around the trigger, ready to deliver another blast of lead into the nightmare. But before he could fire, a new voice, soft, fragile, and utterly human, echoed from the gloom.
Please, don't hurt my family anymore.
The plea was gentle and sorrowful. Out from behind the freak's massive, looming shadow, a small, mysterious girl stepped into the flickering light. Lin Yi's mind reeled.
Family?
The word tasted like ash in his mouth. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Just beyond the cave's mouth, a girl stood fearlessly next to the monstrosity. Her small hand brushed against its jagged, spiked shell, stroking the hard carapace as if she were calming a frightened pet. If she truly saw this creature as kin, then what did that make her? Was she another monster in human skin? Cold instinct took over. Lin Yi raised his weapon, the barrel steady as he aimed directly at the girl. His gaze was sharp, unforgiving, and filled with a deep, defensive paranoia.
Wait, Brother Lin Yi, she isn't an enemy.
Chu Yun's voice was desperate, her hands reaching out as if to block his line of sight.
Lin Yi, lower your gun now. She's the reason we're safe. If they wanted us dead, we wouldn't have survived the night.
Lu Lin Hai's logic was sound, but Lin Yi's mind was a fortress of doubt. He remembered the city. He remembered how these things could mimic faces and voices. Could he even trust the two people standing right in front of him?
Brother Lin Yi, please, just listen. Stay back.
His bark was sharp, his eyes darting between his friends and the girl outside. Every instinct he'd honed through death and rebirth screamed at him to stay vigilant. He looked down at his own chest. The spectral threads of time, the connection between him and Chu Kai had vanished. It must have severed while he was out. Focusing his will, he wove a new strand of fate. The thin, glowing thread drifted lazily through the air, reaching out toward the unconscious Chu Kai. The world suddenly exploded into a riot of noise. Every sound, every vibration slammed into Lin Yi's consciousness with the force of a tidal wave. Lin Yi gasped, his head throbbing with agony. He desperately shifted his focus, spreading his awareness across his other senses to keep his mind from shattering. The buzzing didn't stop, but amidst the chaos, a new sound emerged, the steady, rhythmic thrumming of life. Heartbeats. He finally understood. He heard what Chu Kai must have heard. Lu Lin Hai's heart beat with a strange, rapid frequency, disturbingly similar to the rhythm of the monster outside. But as he listened to Chu Yun, the rhythm was different, pure, human. And the girl, she was the same. Her heart was steady and human, though it beat with a power that far surpassed any ordinary child. With a sharp mental effort, Lin Yi cut the spectral thread. The flood of noise vanished as quickly as it had come, leaving the cave in a heavy, ringing silence. The girl remained where she was, her hand still resting on the freak's carapace. Even with his gun still leveled at her chest, she showed no sign of terror. She was actually comforting the beast. At her gentle touch, the creature's wings folded back into its shell. The girl stood tall and unafraid, her skin clear of the telltale signs of parasite infestation.
There is no need for such tension.
She took a few tentative steps into the cave. Behind her, the freak started to follow, its heavy legs scraping against the stone. The girl raised a hand, a simple gesture that brought the monster to an immediate halt. It waited outside like a loyal guardian.
I mean you no harm. Neither I nor my family will hurt any of you.
She stopped well short of them, perhaps sensing the wall of distrust that Lin Yi still held between them. The girl stepped further into the cave but stayed close to the entrance, a silent silhouette against the dim light. Lin Yi watched her carefully, noting her delicate features and the way her long hair cascaded over her shoulders. She looked like a typical high school girl, the kind Zhang Cheng would have developed a crush on. Her feet were bare against the cold stone, and the clothes she wore looked oddly familiar. They were Chu Yun's.
Tell me the truth. Who are you?
I don't know.
She whispered, a soft shake of her head accompanying the admission.
You don't know? How can you not know your own name? And if you're so lost, why do you defend those monsters? Why call them family?
Because they are the ones who cared for me.
She replied, her voice echoing with a simple, unwavering conviction.
They raised me from nothing in this world that makes them my family.
Lin Yi's expression darkened. The concept of familial debt was a heavy one, but what if the hands that raised you were the same ones waiting to tear you apart? He thought of his own false parents and the fleeting dream of a life that never was. In the city of Oracle, everyone was just livestock being fattened for the slaughter.
What happens when they get hungry? Will they still be family when they decide to eat you?
He couldn't reconcile her words with the reality he'd seen in the city. Mantis wolves were mindless killers once their masks were off. Yet here she was, living in the shadow of a beast that looked nothing like the predators he knew.
They won't eat me. And they wouldn't have hurt you either. Not if you hadn't struck first. They were only defending themselves.
We attacked first? You can't be serious. They were the ones using our voices, mimicking us like some twisted echo. That's a threat in anyone's book.
But did they strike? No. They did nothing to you. We only saw your fire from the heights. We were curious. Nothing more. They tried to blend in to look like the trees so they wouldn't startle you. It was meant to avoid trouble, not cause it.
As if on cue, the mantis wolf outside stiffened. It raised its long, segmented limbs and froze, its jagged outline merging perfectly with the shadows of the surrounding forest. In an instant, it was indistinguishable from the twisted trees.
You were the aggressors. My family only did what was necessary to survive your blades.
Lin Yi's mind raced, replaying the events of the previous night. The mimicry had been eerie, yes, but she was right, they hadn't lunged. It was Chu Kai who had found them, and in Chengdao who had drawn first blood. What if the creature that took flight wasn't charging, but fleeing? What if the others had only surrounded them because they were protecting one of their own?
She's telling the truth, Brother Lin Yi.
Chu Yun whispered, her voice barely audible over the crackle of the fire.
The fruit, the meat, she and her family provided all of it. They saved us when we had nothing left. Look at yourselves. You're at your breaking point. My advice is to stay and recover. The mountain is unforgiving for the weak. But I won't force you. If you still fear us, the path is open. You can walk out of here this very second.
The girl moved with a quiet, deliberate grace, stepping away from the entrance to leave the way clear. Outside, the mantis wolf followed her lead with unsettling precision, lowering its sharp limbs and shifting to the side. It was a perfect, silent mirror of her intent.
The choice is yours. We are not your jailers, and we are not your predators.
Lin Yi didn't respond. He looked at his companions, at their slumped shoulders and the deep, hollow lines of exhaustion on their faces. They were finished, physically, mentally, they had nothing left to give. But a nagging memory clawed at the back of his mind, a scent, sweet, heavy, and inescapable. It had hit him like a physical weight just before the darkness took him. He couldn't just ignore it. If they were to stay, they needed to know the nature of the trap that had already caught them once.
Before I decide, there's something I need to know. That smell, that heavy floral aroma that filled the air before we collapsed, it wasn't natural. What was it? Tell me the truth about what you used on us.
The girl stared ahead with a chilling apathy. It was as if the life or death crisis they faced meant absolutely nothing to her. Lin Yi finally managed to force the question out. Her response came with a patience that was deeply unsettling.
That fragrance, the one that pulled you into such a heavy slumber, it belonged to me.
Your scent?
Lin Yi went rigid. The claim felt perverse, like a piece of a puzzle that didn't fit.
Wait, you're telling me that smell, that cloying aroma, it originated from you?
The girl gave a slow, deliberate nod.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Lin Yi's forehead creased in confusion. No ordinary person could produce a smell like that. It was far too sweet, too overwhelming. It had smothered the area, forcing everyone into a coma. A god chosen. The realization struck him like a bolt. This girl wasn't human. She was one of those superior beings. He started to ask more, but she silenced him with a look before he could utter a word. Sensing the rising panic in his gaze, her voice dropped to a soft, calm whisper.
There's no need for alarm. My fragrance is harmless. It leaves no permanent scars on the soul.
Her eyes drifted over to Chu Kai and the rest of the group, who remained unconscious on the stone floor.
It merely induces a brief, mandatory rest. If they haven't stirred yet, well, that's simply a matter of their own physical limits. The deeper your exhaustion, the more burdened your spirit, the longer the sleep lasts. Stress is the fuel that makes my sense so potent. Within that slumber, people see their deepest wishes. It allows the mind to truly unwind. The pressure of this world fades, if only for a fleeting moment.
She explained that the crisis had reached a breaking point. She couldn't bear to see her family harmed, nor did she want them to butcher Lin Yi's companions. To prevent a massacre, she deployed her fragrance. It was a mandatory peace treaty enforced through chemical unconsciousness.
Relax. I've tuned the dosage. This isn't an eternal slumber. By sunrise at the latest, every one of them will be back among the living.
Lin Yi found himself believing her, at least on that point. The rhythmic, calm breathing of Chu Kai's group filled the silence of the cave. Some of them even wore slight, ghostly smiles. Whatever fantasies they were drifting through, they had to be infinitely better than the hellscape waiting outside. Since Lu Jinhai, Chu Yun, and he had already stirred, the mist obviously wasn't a lethal toxin. Yet a frigid weight settled in the pit of Lin Yi's stomach. What if she turned it up? Would they ever open their eyes again? Or would they simply waste away in a perfect, endless dream while their physical forms decayed? There was something deeply, innately broken about this girl. It was the way she coexisted with those abominations. Lin Yi felt nothing but pure, unadulterated hatred for the monsters that had been hunting them down. The way she referred to those nightmares as family made his skin crawl with revulsion.
The fragrance might soothe your mind, but your body is still at its limit.
She added.
This forest is crawling with predators. Some are just like the ones you've put on that fire. Hunger turns them into beasts, mindless, driven by need. You should stay put until your strength returns. Leaving then will be much less terminal.
She pivoted toward the jagged opening of the cave, ready to vanish into the dark.
Naturally, if you're determined to go now, we won't stand in your way. My family and I aren't your jailers.
Where exactly do you think you're heading?
Lin Yi demanded, his tone jagged with distrust. A few honeyed sentences weren't enough to buy his confidence, not even after they'd survived the night. He remembered Uncle Dian, a man he'd known forever, reduced to a hollowed-out puppet by those parasites. Yet this girl chose to live among them. Had they scrubbed her mind, or was she simply one of them now? At his side, Lu Jinhai gave him a sharp nudge, a silent plea to just let it go. But the interrogation had already begun.
One of my kin is wounded. I need to tend to them,
she replied, her voice as flat as a grave marker. Lu Jinhai gave a sheepish look and pointed a finger toward the shotgun still gripped in Lin Yi's hands. Lin Yi followed his gaze to the cold steel. It clicked. That second blast, right before the darkness took him, he'd pulled the trigger on the creature diving for his neck. He'd drawn blood. She didn't radiate any anger, though. If anything, there was a flicker of comprehension in her dark eyes. To her, a cornered animal fighting for its life was beyond reproach.
Is there something more?
She inquired, pausing at the very edge of the cave mouth. Lin Yi paused, the question catching in his throat.
Wait, what do I call you?
She gave a slow shake of her head.
Names are for others. I have no use for one.
She stopped then, her gaze drifting upward to the starless gloom outside.
However, if you must, you may call me Flower.
Flower! It was a bizarre, delicate name for someone surrounded by such carnage. Beyond the cave mouth, a monstrous figure tore open its tattered jacket. Massive insectoid wings snapped open, vibrating with a high-pitched, sickening hum that vibrated in the air. 6 spindly, chitinous legs extended, wrapping the girl in a repulsive, multi-limbed embrace. With a powerful beat of its wings, the creature ascended, spiriting Flower away into the suffocating darkness.
Kid, you've got some serious nerve.
Lu Jinhai breathed out, the tension finally leaving his shoulders now that she was gone.
She showed me and Chu Yun the mantis wolf you blasted earlier. You took off half its skull. If you'd been just a fraction more precise, that thing would be a corpse instead of a casualty. But the way they cling to life, it's sickening. Half a head gone and it was still drawing breath. Absolute monsters.
I missed? Lin Yi's jaw locked, his teeth grinding together. He'd been dead certain he was aiming for the very center of the creature's head. It was the first time he'd ever pulled a trigger for real. Even with the supernatural senses he'd borrowed from Chu Kai, his aim had faltered. He needed to train. He needed to become a weapon himself.
When exactly did you two come around?
Lin Yi asked, his gaze shifting between his 2 awake companions.
I opened my eyes around mid-afternoon.
Chu Yun replied, biting into a piece of fruit that looked like nothing he'd ever seen. The produce was alien and strange, yet thick, sweet juice ran down her chin. The scent reached Lin Yi as she chewed, a sugary, cloying aroma. His stomach gave an embarrassing, hollow roar in response.
Hai was the first one to stir.
I've been up since this morning.
Lu Jinhai noted. He was hunkered down by the flames, rotating a rat carcass over the heat to ensure an even char.
When I finally came to, the monsters were just finishing placing us on the floor.
Lu Jinhai began to detail everything that had transpired while Lin Yi was under. Once the fragrance had claimed them, Flower had commanded the beasts to transport their bodies into the safety of this cavern. She'd explained that as long as she and her kin guarded the entrance, the ground rats and the mutated birds outside wouldn't dare come near. It was a gruesome form of protection, the only thing preventing them from being eaten alive while they drifted in their dreams. That was the moment Lu Jinhai had chosen to place his life in her hands. She'd even gone as far as to scavenge supplies for them, ensuring they had water and something to fill their bellies.
I really don't think she's evil.
Lu Jinhai noted, his voice quiet.
We nearly killed one of her own, took off half its face, and she didn't lash out. She actually stepped in to keep the other monsters from shredding us. Hell, the monsters even hunted these rats down for our meal.
They brought the fruit too.
Chu Yun chipped in, gesturing to the strange produce. Lu Jinhai fell silent for a moment, his gaze searching Lin Yi's face.
Lin Yi, a thought's been eating at me. Is it possible that the monsters aren't just a monolithic threat? What if they're like us? Some decent, some less so?
The idea was alien to Lin Yi, a possibility he'd never even dared to entertain. In his experience, every single one of those things was either a predator looking for a meal or a parasite looking for a suit of human skin. But looking at their current situation, could Lu Jinhai actually be onto something? Then, a separate, more chilling thought sparked in the depths of his consciousness. A realization hit him, making his pulse skyrocket. A wave of cold dread washed over him. Flower, she was infinitely more complex and more dangerous than they'd ever imagined. Lin Yi replayed the moment he first encountered those mantis wolves in his mind, the image etched with terrifying clarity. From the instant they spotted the beasts lurking near Flower, the spike-covered creatures had done nothing but echo their words. Whether the humans were lashing out in anger or trying to intimidate them, the monsters merely mimicked the sounds back, syllable for syllable. They seemed fundamentally incapable of actual speech. Unlike the predatory mantis wolves in the city, these creatures babbled like infants, primitive and unrefined. Their ability to blend into the strange forest, mimicking the gnarled trees with perfect camouflage, suggested a life lived in total isolation from humanity. If Flower had truly been raised by these abominations, her world should have been a mirror of theirs, a cycle of mimicry and instinct. Yet, Flower spoke with a fluency that defied her circumstances. She didn't just repeat, she communicated, expressing complex thoughts and desires. Even if her phrasing felt slightly off, she navigated conversations with Lin Yi with surprising ease. It didn't make sense. Anyone who had grown up among monsters since their earliest memories would never view themselves as human. She should have seen herself as one of the pack, adopting their habits and hunting techniques as if they were her own. But Flower was different. She looked for understanding in others and even attempted to see the world from Lin Yi's perspective. Her cognitive process was worlds apart from the parrot-like freaks. To any observer, this girl named Flower appeared remarkably human. On the surface, Flower's humanity seemed like a blessing, but when weighed against her earlier claims, it pointed to a chilling truth. She had been lying from the very start. A dark, persistent suspicion began to take root in Lin Yi's mind, overshadowing any relief he might have felt. If she truly grew up in a den of mantis wolves, her human-like habits and cognitive complexity didn't just emerge by accident. Someone must have taught her. Perhaps she hadn't been as isolated as she claimed. He wondered if she had been in contact with normal humans this entire time. The thought was terrifying. Could the freaks be kidnapping humans and holding them here as future meals, using the cave as a temporary pantry? If that were the case, Flower might have learned everything she knew from the very people her family intended to consume. It was a grim theory, and Lin Yi knew it was riddled with holes. Too many questions remained unanswered. If the mantis wolves here shared the same ravenous hunger for human flesh as those in the city, why had Flower survived among them for so long? And if they were simply saving people for later, where were the others? Surely there would be children her age, or younger, if this were a breeding or holding ground. Flower's parting words echoed in his head. If you want to go, you can leave at any time. It felt like a trap, or a test he wasn't prepared to fail. If they actually tried to walk away, how would she and her spike-covered protectors react? Would they let them go, or would the forest turn into a slaughterhouse? The variables were too many, and the consequences of a wrong guess were lethal. For now, the truth remained just out of reach.
Lin Yi, what are you doing just staring off into space?
Lu Linhai's voice broke through Lin Yi's deep concentration. He turned to find his friend approaching, a skewer of roasted rat held casually in his hand.
I've been calling your name for ages. Why the silent treatment? Don't tell me you've actually fallen for that girl? Is this that legendary love at first sight I've heard so much about? Tisk, tisk, tick.
Lin Yi didn't find the joke amusing. He shot Lu Linhai a sharp, warning glare that immediately silenced the laughter. Walking cautiously to the mouth of the cave, Lin Yi scanned the perimeter. Once he was certain Flower and her monstrous guardians were nowhere in sight, he retreated back into the shadows.
I'm serious, Lin Yi. There's something wrong with Flower. Her behavior, it isn't right. It's too calculated.
I think she's weird too. You have no idea. When I first woke up, she didn't have a single stitch of clothing on. She was just standing there, completely naked, talking to me like it was the most natural thing in the world. Scared the absolute life out of me. I'm a gentleman, you know? I had to look away. See no evil, right?
No clothes?
Lu Linhai had regained consciousness before him. meaning he had spent more time observing Flower's unfiltered behavior.
Yeah, nothing at all. She didn't seem to care in the slightest. She acted as if being exposed was no big deal, like it didn't even register as a concept. It made things incredibly awkward for me. I eventually had no choice but to give her some of Little Yun's spare clothes just so I could look at her.
Lin Yi held out the skewer, the smell of roasted meat filling the small space.
Anyway, enough about her for a second. You need to eat something.
Lin Yi's simple explanation actually provided some unexpected clarity for Lin Yi. These freaks were fundamentally different from the ones in the city. They were closer to the primal beasts of the natural world, operating on raw, unrefined instincts. To them, things like clothing or modesty were alien concepts, entirely irrelevant to the core drive of survival. He realized the city-dwelling monsters were more like domesticated animals, bred and conditioned over generations to mimic human behavior while losing their wild edge. It was the difference between a wolf and a dog. One retained the lethal purity of nature, while the other had been softened by the very structures it sought to control. The creatures guarding Flower were the wolves. Their bodies were evolutionary masterpieces of defense and offense, covered in jagged defensive spikes. They possessed the ability to weave thick, suffocating silk, and were equipped with insectoid wings that granted them absolute aerial dominance. Even their smaller stature was a testament to the harsh, unforgiving environment they called home, where every calorie was earned through blood. Yet, this only deepened the mystery of Flower. If she had grown up in such a savage environment, her current behavior should have been impossible. No amount of raw intelligence could bridge the gap from beast to human without a guide. Without a teacher, she would be nothing more than another mindless mimic.
Are you going to eat that or what? I even cooled it down for you. It's not as gamey as it looks, I promise.
Lin Yi accepted the skewer from Lin Yi, his gaze drifting over to Chu Kai and the rest of the group, who remained lost in a heavy, exhausted sleep. Despite the gnawing anxiety in his chest, he knew they were anchored here for the time being. They couldn't move without the others. And Chengdao alone was a dead weight they couldn't easily transport. Even if they tried to drag the wounded out, they wouldn't make it 100 yards before collapsing. Outside the cave, the world had already surrendered to a deep, oppressive night. The forest was no longer just a backdrop, it was a hunting ground. Venturing out now meant risking an encounter with ground rats or those monstrous birds, a death sentence in their current state. The questions about Flower, her lies, and their ultimate escape would have to wait until the others regained their strength. After a quiet, tense discussion with Lin Yi and Chu Yun, the three of them reached a consensus. They would keep a constant watch, rotating in shifts. They needed to stay vigilant, not just against Flower and her pack of freaks, but against anything else that might crawl into their fragile sanctuary. The reality of their situation was a cold, hard weight. This world bore no resemblance to the one they had left behind. In this new, twisted landscape, a single moment of carelessness, a single blink of an eye, was all it would take to end their journey forever.